As I mentioned, I'm Meg Trite. I'm your host today for the Circle of Intrapreneurs Monthly Exchange. We do these every month, with the exception of a few breaks throughout the year. Give you a little downtime, but we always come back with more for you. But we are partaking in Exchange PGH Innovation Week in Pittsburgh this week. So the Circle's very excited to be there. So I see a lot of Pittsburghers here on the line. Thanks so much for coming out to join us today. So I'm your co-managing director. I've been with the Circle since 2017. We are a global organization. My co-MD, who cannot be with us today, is Ben Attell. He sits in London, across the pond from us. And so we are a very open community. If you need anything, please get in touch with either Ben or I, and we're happy to be of support. So today, just want to give you a warm welcome. If you haven't ever been with the Circle of Intrapreneurs, haven't heard about us, we'll be sharing a little bit about who we are today and to help you get comfy here with us. And then for our monthly exchange this month, we have Edwin Goutier, who is the CEO of LaunchPath. LaunchPath is an intrapreneurship software program. And we also have the CTO, Manny Schumpert, who will be sharing a demo with us a little later on today. So very excited to have them both with us this afternoon as a part of Exchange PGH Innovation Week. And then we always, as part of our monthly exchanges, we like to do one-on-one networking. This is a global group, so it's great to meet people from other areas of the world that you can connect with and expand your network and learn something new. So very excited to have you here. All right, so why do we run these exchanges? So we are all about practicing and enabling intrapreneurship, but we want to make it easier through community support. So these are a regular community event. They're free every month to help with learning and sharing and connecting with like-minded individuals. And these are very bottom-up in nature. So some of the topics that you see have come from the ideas of our members, things that they'd like to see or learn about. And we're always aspiring and practicing intrapreneurship. So if you aren't familiar with social intrapreneurship, it's really about the focus on, you've heard of the SDGs, and it's a focus on addressing societal and environmental issues through business. So our hashtag that we love to use is do well, do good. All right. So just a little highlight here of who we are. We've been around for many years now, since about 2015. And so we work with a number of different companies around the world, members. We have over 5,000 members globally and are connected with all of these various companies and more. So we do have a great network. We're very proud of that. We have very passionate members. And so just excited to have you all join us today. So with that, that's a little about the Circle. And at this point, I'd love to introduce you to Edwin Goutier, who is CEO of LaunchPath. And he's going to be sharing about leveraging AI for intrapreneurship. So Edwin, welcome.
Thank you so much, Meg. I'm excited to be here. I see that we've got a bit of a crowd formed, and so I'm just going to jump right into it. Over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to start by asking you all a few questions so I can get a sense of who's in the room, where your head's at when it comes to leveraging AI for intrapreneurship. Then I'm going to share a little bit about what we're learning at LaunchPath. I won't say that we're experts in the AI space right now because, a month or two ago, a lot of the tools that exist today didn't exist. I kind of liken it to the pace of AI and everything that we're learning. It's kind of like when you see those pictures of the president, like when they first take office and then 8 years later. So we're kind of experiencing that right now with the rate of change and all the tools that are out there. So we're going to take all that stress on. I looked much younger, like 4 months ago, but hopefully what we're learning will help save you some time and some trouble. And then we have just a quick demo at the end. We love what intrapreneurship programs can do with AI. And so we have some surprising options to show you how that can be leveraged within LaunchPath, our intrapreneurship platform. Right now, what I'd like for you to do is tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're here through this very quick and easy survey. Go ahead and click the link that I just posted in chat, and that should pop up to just a few really simple questions. As you share, we're going to share screen so that we can all get a sense of where everybody's head is at. All right, so it seems like so far excitement is in the lead. And then there's a good mix of excitement adjacent terms and also a little bit of concern, which is good. I think even Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, is like, well, I'm kind of scared because there's, a 10% chance we might end humanity with this technology. So, concern is good. But hopefully during this conversation, we can at least explore how the tools that are available to you today are set up to not make you nervous or concerned, but really to help you leapfrog, which is a word that I love seeing here in the innovation program. Awesome. And Adam, totally agree. Love the honesty in the responses that I'm seeing here. All right. So we're going to move on to the next question. I do want to make sure that this is tailored and that I have a sense of what you want to get out of this. So what are you interested in learning today? An hour of your time is not a small investment by any means. So share a little bit about why you're here.
Feel free to come off mute or share in the chat.
Oh, we can just have them drop them right into the survey.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Yeah, so I'm gonna select one of these that I find interesting, and I'm gonna ask you to come off of mute and share a little bit about why you shared that. So this person that shared the starter points, simple tools that help you experiment. Does that person feel comfy coming off of mute and sharing a little bit about what you're thinking?
Sure, happy to do it. This is Adam. It's nice to be here. Thanks, Edwin and Meg, for putting this together. It's always exciting to hear what other people are walking through, in the crawl, walk, run. I think for me, Edwin, what I'm sort of balancing with is like on one side, there's like ubiquitous tools by the day, aka plugins that are coming everywhere and anywhere. And there's like some big buckets of like, write better with AI, make images better with AI, make movies and whatnot. And so I think I'm just in a place where when there's 1,000 tools, I'm like cognitively overwhelmed. And so I'm wondering if there are like the 3 buckets that everyone thinks about starting, or, there's like distinctly like a bad actors list, like is also a little bit of this because, I realize now that like, Midsummer has different benefits than Dolly, which is different benefits in Stable Fusion and a variety of other things. So any guidance on like where to start, buckets to start, and maybe even like places not to go?
That's super helpful. I will definitely work some of that in. Luckily, the presentation is really designed around making it easy to pick a few very simple off-the-shelf and nearly free tools that are available to you. So I think we'll get into that during the conversation for sure. All right, and let's see the rest of the answers. Oh, how to use AI in the nonprofit sector. Does this person want to come off of chat or come off of mute? I did see a number of nonprofit colleagues, even some of my former United Way folks. So thanks for joining, y'all. Does somebody want to come off of mute and share a little bit from the nonprofit sector? Oh, Kelly, I see the audio is not coming on. Gotcha. All right. Well, we're going to make sure that we weave some social innovation aspects into this conversation in honor of my nonprofit sector colleagues who are on the call. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Oops, sorry. We're going to move on to the final question. I want to know how important and urgent AI is at your company right now. So you should see a question that asks you to rate the urgency and importance of leveraging AI at your company. And you get to do that 2 times. The first time you're going to do it based on where we are today. And then you're going to do it for where we were 6 months ago. So how urgent and important is AI today? How urgent and important do you think AI was to your company 6 months ago? And we see the answers already coming in. Yeah, and we can explore. Yes, there is a, a pretty big cluster today that is starting to appear compared to a little while ago. I know that there was one person in chat that mentioned they're with an AI-based business. So kudos to you for being a leader 6 months ago in that space. The rest of us are just kind of just getting out of bed. So this is super helpful. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to switch gears and present a little bit so that you can get a sense of some of the tips and tricks and also a few risks that you might want to keep in mind as you introduce AI into your intrapreneurship program. So really important first step when we talk about technology, when we talk about the shiny new objects, I think AI is one of the most exciting new technologies to hit the scene because almost instantly it was so accessible to individuals in ways that other big technologies like blockchain and cryptocurrency or big data haven't been. And so, you know, we have 100 million users on using OpenAI's products. And so it feels a little bit different, but when we are innovators and we're given a new technology, we really have to stay focused on the customer. And so if you're running an intrapreneurship program, your intrapreneurs, in a way, are the customer of that program. And so a really great way to focus and refine what it is what approach you're going to take, what tools you're going to leverage. Think first about what that intrapreneur's jobs to be done are. Think about the pains and the gains associated with those jobs. And then, only then, do you start to think about AI solutions that create value and that could actually be adopted within your organization. Because, you know, the right tool without the possibility of somebody saying yes to it is just another distraction. And so where can we help? These are just a few of the tasks that a typical intrapreneur might go through, going from, hey, I'm raising my hands to do something cool that I hope will create additional value for my company, all the way to there's a new solution that's ready to be launched. So problem exploration, solution ideation, evaluation of their concept, business model articulation, MVP and prototype development, analyzing the evidence that they get back. And then when I say success achieved, we as innovators, we all know that that could also mean that you are successfully sunsetting an idea that is never going to work and saving your company a lot of headache and money. Or it could be that you're launching the next big thing that will change the trajectory of your organization. So across those 6 areas, there are real and actionable ways that artificial intelligence can help. I'm going to focus most of this discussion on ChatGPT because it's free, widely available, really easy to use, and there's tons of free resources, across Twitter, across the internet, that helps you get better at using it. But I will get into a couple additional tools when we get to the MVP and prototype development and evidence analysis in particular. Are there any other innovator tasks or intrapreneur tasks that I'm potentially missing? feel free to come off of mute. Was I that exhaustive? Is that possible? Awesome. All right, we're cooking. So with problem exploration, one of the things that I love about ChatGPT is that it already knows every framework that you could possibly want to use in innovation. So what you're seeing here is the result of me playing with a prompt, asking it to perform a 5 whys analysis for evictions in Miami. Understanding the root cause of the problems that we're facing is always one of the most important parts, whether it's social innovation or innovation in the for-profit sector. That root cause analysis, one, helps us get to the real reason why something is happening. And two, it helps us find unique points of entry for our solutions, right? So I started with, why are there more evictions? It decided one of the reasons could be landlords are evicting more frequently because they want more profits, because demand is high, because more people are moving to Miami. There was another version of this where I said, okay, that's great. Re-ask the question for number 4. And then it said, because climate change is affecting, and you can go ahead and alter the answers that it provides to you and find new solutions along the way. So problem exploration through OpenAI, through ChatGPT is a really exciting use case, and one that I use kind of constantly in my work. The second is solution ideation. This is one version of solution ideation that I think is really fun. It's asset-based innovation. And so particularly within companies, we're often sitting on something pretty great already, right? We have existing patents, we have existing IP. Sometimes just the activities of our customers create data that we have proprietary access to that nobody else does. How can we monetize those tools? Well, I told ChatGPT to pretend that it is an incredible entrepreneur coach. And I said, I actually pasted in a patent description that is owned by the University of Tulsa. And I said, I want you to create a business based on this patent. And it actually did a pretty great job. The patent was a technology that allows you to measure the height of a jump based on the amount of time the jumper is in the air. And so using that, it defined this as like basketball players and coaches. We're going to create a tool and an app that helps them measure their vertical height jump. It was actually a pretty great idea. When I looked online on Amazon, the typical like jumping tools that they sell now are like $800 a piece. So for someone who doesn't have that kind of money, this is actually not a bad idea. Royalty-free license, guys, use it, go run with it, start your business. The next item after after ideation is evaluation. And so in that same prompt, I said, and I want you to evaluate this concept as if you were an investor on Shark Tank, and rate the desirability, feasibility, viability. And so it gave me a really good starting point on those 3 elements of the innovation sweet spot. So that is a pain point that we have in the innovation space or in the entrepreneurship space, is that we don't really have the time to do the full review of all of our employees' ideas. So having these automated tools that can be that first check of whether or not an employee's concept is good, and having them have automated feedback about their concept. I mean, that's a huge win for us as entrepreneur managers, entrepreneurship program managers. But it's also a great value for the employee just to get that clear feedback from a third-party evaluator where they don't really have to be nervous about messing up. The next item is business model articulation. Here I included market sizing, which asking tools like ChatGPT for the number of people that exist that exhibit this trait, it's actually pretty good at that. Or, the number of nonprofits that are earning $5 million a year or more, pretty good at that. Competitive analysis, I've even seen prompts where people allow ChatGPT or use ChatGPT, and it goes through the feedback of G2, like the rating website. So if you're making a B2B product and you want a competitive analysis that includes the actual feedback of competitors in your space, it's really good at that. And so I'm going to take a pause here and see, we've got that empty bullet. I'd like to hear from you all, any other spaces in defining the business model that you or your employees might have had issues in the past.
Hey, I'll chime in, Edwin. How about kind of figuring out your MVP?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And don't worry, that's the next slide.
Ooh, good.
Yeah, one thing that you could do to help to kind of define or articulate your business model is maybe ask it for analogs in other categories or industries.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's actually really good at figuring out adjacent concepts. And that's a really excellent point. Thank you, Mark.
That's great. Yeah, I think you could use it to even speak directly to your customer, your market, your profile by digging into your MVP. So then your MVP would be more aligned, speaking directly to that as well, even.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the important points that I'll reinforce at the end is going into all of these generative AI tools without a lot of your own user research, your own data, you're going to get back exactly what everybody else would get back. And so when we think about the defensibility of our ideas or the quality of our ideas, it's going to be much higher if we go in with like a very specific point of view with some customer feedback with those pain points already identified. But this is a great starting place for folks who still need to just have that first experience of figuring these things out. Oh, I see from Alex, he used it to help identify potential learning objectives and curriculum for a digital mindset program. That's very cool. That's awesome. All right, we're going to keep on moving. So MVP and prototype development. Meg, thanks for teeing it up. I love it. This is an actual tool called Galileo AI. Galileo is pretty incredible in that it can design a UI from you just adding like a written description, and it will generate a UI. It'll export it to Figma. So you have the potential to create like clickable prototypes of an app or a website just by typing in some text. So as you think about the innovation process and investing as little as possible before you really know you have something, the cost of creating these MVPs is going down tremendously. There are also tools that allow you to make free websites just with a little bit of text, free landing pages, Jasper.ai is really great at helping you make ad copy. So all of these generative AI tools are part of the way that you can create your prototypes, drive users to your prototypes, and really see what that funnel is before you even have something real that you've invested a lot of time or money into. And then finally, evidence analysis. This is a tool called GPT for Sheets. And so raise your hand if you're in the practice of recording your customer interviews when you do them on Zoom. I know I do, especially if I'm by myself and I don't have the ability to take notes live. Well, here's a great tool for you. GPT for Sheets can actually categorize and tag quotes or little pieces of feedback that you paste into it. So this is from a customer interview process that I'm doing, and it identified which ones are the pain points, which are the feature requests, tagged it with different themes. And so it's just like a really great and simple way for you to go through the process of understanding what you're hearing and aggregating feedback through the evidence gathering process. All right. I'm going to keep on moving. Now, there are definitely some risks to keep in mind, and it's important to be mindful of this as you spread the potential to use AI tools to innovators and you use it yourself. The first is on the legal front. This is another example of technology kind of outpacing the legal environment. So there are some gray areas on the copyright ability for pieces that are created using generative AI. And so there is a risk there if you are using something that comes straight from one of those models. The second is on privacy and security. It is really important to ensure employees are not putting confidential information, IP into things like ChatGPT or PII. So you don't want them putting in people's contact information or addresses unless you have like an enterprise grade tool and you have some assurances that that's safe. It's really important just to make sure that you understand you're putting a lot of data into just kind of like a collective hive mind, and not necessarily something where, particularly for folks in healthcare, I saw someone in the health field is here. You definitely don't want people, posting client records or something like that directly into the platform. And then finally, accuracy. And so there's a term called hallucinations where it kind of just makes stuff up sometimes. I like to use generative AI tools early on in the process if I'm letting it be free to think and ideate, because our job as innovators and as managers of intrapreneurship programs is to validate, right? And so if it makes something up, my next step is to figure out whether or not what it's saying is true, and then figure out whether or not what they're saying is valuable to the marketplace anyway. You shouldn't ever take anything that it says as being 100% accurate. It's kind of like, when I was driving my daughter home the other day, and she's 4, she told me that tomorrow at school, we're going to have pajama day and we get to bring our stuffies to school. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And so I get home the next day, she goes to school with like her flannel PJs and her stuffy, and she's the only one wearing PJs. And I'm like, I have made a huge error here. So just always remember that you have to kind of second guess and question the accuracy of the speaker who's providing the information to you. And then finally, just going to close it out with some tips for how you can get better at using AI. The first is to keep up with the conversation online. It's dizzying. We're moving at such a fast pace. It can be a little bit terrifying at times to try to keep up with everything that's happening, but you learn so many cool tips and tricks. You see people experimenting. It's like we all get to be in the garages of Silicon Valley 20 or 30 years ago, watching in real time as computers are being invented. It's the coolest thing in the world. So just being a watcher or a lurker in some of these online conversations is incredibly helpful. The second is lead the conversation internally. You can be the go-to on how generative AI can provide value for your company. For us at LaunchPath, we have a bi-weekly meeting called Friday Brainstorm. It's like FRAI Day Brainstorm. I love puns. And so that meeting is just a chance for us to debrief on what we're finding and figure out the value for the business, and have that inform our AI roadmap for our product. The third is practice. Like the results that you're seeing from those prompts that I share, from the results that I shared. I practice those prompts. I find new ways to ask the question a little bit better, a little bit sharper each time. And so, with everything else in the innovation space, the more you practice, the better at it you'll get. And then finally, I mentioned this before, but you got to do the hard work beforehand. And so this isn't a replacement for doing customer interviews. This isn't a replacement for customer discovery or shadowing somebody if you need to understand how they behave in real life. Once you have that data and you bring that to the generative AI platforms, that's when the magic really happens. If you don't have anything other than the generative AI supporting you, it's unlikely you're going to get to like really great game-changing solutions. It can still be an incredible tool for helping you just kind of get through that first analysis paralysis of like, what should my idea even be? But that depth of what can really happen, that's from doing the hard work that you got to do as an innovator. Are there any questions? All right, hearing none, I'm going to switch gears, and Manny, my colleague Manny, our CTO, is on today, and he's going to show you all a bit about what we're working on at LaunchPath.
Hey, everybody. We have a lot of plans for AI in LaunchPath. The first thing that we're doing, though, is a tool for spurring creativity in business ideation. It is fairly similar to some of the things that Edwin showed you, where he gave the ChatGPT some text and say, hey, give me some business ideas from this, and it'll return a business idea in a structured and like the basic business idea in our framework in LaunchPath, where you've got a customer job, you've got the problem with that job, and then a solution for the problem. So we are working on a tool for brainstorming those kind of ideas. And this is fairly early. It is definitely possible that something will go wrong during this demo. OpenAI's, we're using OpenAI APIs for this, and every now and then it does choke. So hopefully that won't happen and things will go smoothly, but we'll see. So in LaunchPath, we now have this new main menu item here for brainstorms, where you can do an AI assisted business brainstorming. We're going to be making this 5 whys analysis, like Edwin mentioned. It's not ready yet, but so I'm going to start with this. There's a few ways to get started. We can start from scratch, where we basically just kind of build ideas from nothing. We've got we can generate some business ideas from input text, like the one where Edwin entered like a patent abstract, and it gave us some business ideas. That's another way to enter into a brainstorm. This surprise me one is just going to randomize, just give you a bunch of random ideas, just to kind of get you thinking. I'm going to show you the first two, the starting from scratch and then generating from input text. So if I start from scratch, we're going to go to a new brainstorm here. And the first thing we need to do is add a customer. I'm going to say nonprofit grant writer. Now, so this is the customer, and the task is to create the jobs and problems and solutions. I can do that manually, but I'm just going to ask the AI to do it. So I have selected this customer, and this explode button basically just asks the AI to do all the brainstorming for me. And it might come up with some good business ideas, but it might just be interesting ideas that then spur more creativity. But I'm going to hit this. And this process can take a little time. Hopefully it won't be too long.
This is so cool. Wow.
So the AI is slowly filling in complete business ideas from just that one seed piece of a business idea. These things that aren't filling in are either just the AI is choking and not finishing it, or it's just taking some time.
Hey,
But
can you highlight what the different components of the business idea are, just since the framework may not be familiar to everyone?
sure, yeah. So it's organized into columns, and the first is the customer with the little, you see the icon there. The second is the customer job. The third column is the problem with the job, and the last column is a solution to that problem. And so it has generated this tree of ideas just from this one customer. So it generates a few jobs, and then it generates a few problems for each of those jobs, and then it generates a few solutions for each of those problems. And there we go, we got an error. But one thing, so once you've got some things to work with, you can you definitely, as Edwin says, you when you don't just trust the AI, you have to think about what it has given you and decide what is actually a good idea or not. But in LaunchPath, we have this process for evaluating business ideas in your organization. And from a brainstorm, we can select a few of these pieces and then create a new idea so that we can actually start moving one of these whole ideas through the whole process, through the organizational process. And so this will create a draft idea. And we could go straight to the idea and work on it. We're not going to do that right now. So we've just created an idea. So this is one way to do a brainstorm. At any point, we can actually like if I thought this was an interesting, hang on a second. If this is an interesting problem, but I want to get some other solutions for it, I can hit explode again, and it will generate some more solutions for that problem. So it does look like in the background the API has choked a bit.
This is incredible, Manny. Just seeing in the chat, I think everyone is sharing the same amazement of just outlining the problem and different avenues we can explore. Very cool.
Okay. I'm gonna thanks. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. It's a very fun problem. I am actually restarting the app in the background because the API choked. We obviously have some more work to do to manage how to respond properly when the OpenAI API breaks down. Once it gets running again, I can show you the other way to start a brainstorm.
While Manny is working on getting the site back up and going, one of the things to highlight from all of this is just the ways that AI can be applied to kind of core functions of your organization, kind of in this deeper way, whether through developing a customer-facing app like we're doing at LaunchPath, or just by developing internal tools that are using your proprietary data to kind of solve problems. And that certainly takes some technical sophistication to do that, but we found it so empowering to have access to the OpenAI APIs and be able to put those to use in exciting new ways like you're seeing here.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I come from a big organization where we were in the midst of a digital transformation, and I'm just like, oh, I would have been so good if I had these tools back then. So if you have big strategic initiatives, if you have transformation on the agenda in your organization, I really think it's an imperative to figure out how you can leverage these tools, get more shots on goal, and get much deeper, richer solutions, and better understanding of the problems as well.
Couldn't agree more.
Let
Looks
me
like we're back
let me
and
get
running.
this running. This is like once I input the text, the AI is going to think. So we'll have some time to talk when the AI is thinking. So I'm like what Edwin did. I'm gonna paste in an abstract from NASA, from a patent of NASA's, and it's going to take some time to like actually process this data. So there's definitely time to chat. Oh, it crashed.
We're still a couple weeks away from having this ready for our customers. The one thing that the conversation I keep having with folks, particularly as we talk to universities, there are so many completed but not commercialized patents in the world. There's like so much protected IP that's just like planes that are sitting on the runway waiting to make an impact, well, waiting to be useful in the world. And so, yeah, I love this concept and the ability to use it to, not just create a business idea, but even find who the customers could be. And so, yeah, this is a really powerful one for large organizations. And it doesn't have to be based solely on, solely on a patent. That's the example that we're using. But let's say you have a database of customer transactions. Let's say you have ratings or some tool that you have that nobody else has. That is an incredible asset, and there's an opportunity to commercialize that.
It's still thinking. It hasn't crashed. It's still, that is definitely one of the issues with OpenAI's API is that it is sometimes it responds very quickly and everything feels great. Sometimes it takes a while for it to get back to you, and this time it seems like it is taking a while.
Yeah. And not an issue. I know that we do have networking on the docket, and I want to make sure we're respectful of everyone's time. Here's what I will do. I'm going to drop a link in Zoom. And for folks who are dying to know how this last piece turns out, you can just book time on our calendar. And we'll walk you through. Oh, here we go. Never mind. I got.
Okay, there it is. That took a long time, but there it is. So here are some like whole business ideas just based on that NASA abstract. Anyway, so I guess so now I can create a new idea from one of these. But anyway, that's how everything's working. Hopefully we can make it a little quicker hope in the future, and obviously have to manage some of those unexpected issues, but that's that.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Edwin and Gray. Gray is the founder of LaunchPath. We go way back, so thanks for joining, Gray, too. Before we start into networking, this was just incredible. I feel like my mind is blown with the availability of options we have to leverage AI in our work. So I'm so excited from that, and I don't want to step off of that. So is there any questions? We'll take a few minutes of questions for Manny, Edwin, or Gray before we open it up to some global networking. So feel free to come off mute. Or just general responses to what you just saw.
I'll jump off mute. This is Greta. Thank you so much to LaunchPath team and Intrapreneurship team for the presentation. Just a reflection, how do you see, or how are you seeing the jobs to be done for the subject matter experts, so to speak, at every organization that we so heavily rely on? Because from this, kind of a gut reaction from this demo is the jobs to be done for each stakeholder in entrepreneurship is going to change. And so just from this initial demo, I'm thinking, okay, so now we would potentially weave in our SMEs to evaluate whatever the generative AI produced. So that's one thought there, but are you seeing a shift from emphasizing folks to ideate over to now evaluating what the generative AI is producing?
That's such a great question. There's a lot of chatter on Twitter that like, you know, having a job is just going to be some version of being a prompt engineer. I don't take it that far necessarily. I do think that there is an opportunity for everyone to move up a level in the value chain. So like when I think about early on in my life, we had a typewriter in my house. Then we had a typewriter in my house that had a little indicator that I had typed a word incorrectly. And that was like the coolest thing. And so all of a sudden I was no longer having to do the job of spelling correctly. But then you have a computer that also does grammar check. And now we have internet-enabled tools that create the first draft for you. And so I've moved from being like a copywriter in the basement to the managing editor of like the stuff that comes out of Edwin's brain. I think that's kind of the opportunity that we have across the board, is just to move a little bit up in the value chain. I don't think that you can remove ideation from the process though. The real good, insightful, nuggets of wisdom are going to come from people. AI is going to help drive us in the right direction or can fill in gaps in our knowledge. But I still think that the human being will still reign supreme, at least for a while, especially when you think about the important parts of a business like differentiation. You got to have your unique point of view at the table.
Thanks for that, Edwin. I love I will quote you warmly in my own conversations about the opportunity to move up in the value chain. I think that is a great takeaway from this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greta.
Great question, Greta. Any other questions? Got 2 more minutes before we'll take out into breakout groups. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Edwin and Manny.